Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke, and give a big warm welcome to the victorious Chef John. Chef John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Yeah, it was a great night last night, obviously, walking away with the W.
Yeah, you are under 24 hours removed from making your really return to MMA. You were on the show a couple weeks ago talking about how you ended up taking a few years off to work on some personal stuff that was more important. Now you're back focused on MMA. You are coaching and training and doing a whole bunch of different stuff. And this is really your push to see kind of where you could take your MMA career. You ought to go into enemy territory into New York to get this done. So kind of start with the trip, start with the atmosphere, and then we'll build up to your incredible performance and great stoppage win.
Yeah, so I mean, 8 weeks ago, I got asked to take a fight, and I had 30 pounds to go. So we cut the 30 pounds for a day before weigh-in, which is always nice to have, right? Friday before weigh-ins. And so that day, my team picked me up. I had my corner, Faith Nichols, and Dan Walters picked me up, and they started the trip out. It's a 4.5 trip up to New York, you know, and I measured out my water that I was allowed to drink for the day, so I didn't gain any more weight on my way up there. And it was just really a smooth trip. You know, we just BS the whole way up there, and just kept the mind light, and didn't really try to overwhelm myself thinking about the fight on Friday. You know, I just kind of wanted to have a peaceful day heading up, and we didn't really start getting into game planning until, you know, we got closer to the fight. I just like to keep those nerves down, and those nerves, no matter, I mean, that was my 9th fight, right? And no matter what, your nerves kind of kick around, which is kind of what you want. I think you want nerves. That's what keeps us our edge, right? When we get into the cage, is having those nerves. But I try to keep them to a minimum so that I'm not like sweating bullets the entire time. You know.
Well, you mentioned your weight 8 weeks ago. You had said something on Facebook post fight, which was fantastic, that we really didn't talk about the first time, which was about 6 months ago at the beginning of the year. So maybe more like 8 months ago at the beginning of the year, you were 70 pounds heavier than fight weight. You were 255 and your fight weight was 185. So what has that journey been like? You know, kind of, I mean, that's a lot of weight, not really cutting. You're more losing it because it's more about changing your body composition. So what was that journey like for you? And then obviously that'll catch us right up to the fight.
Yeah, that was you know, it's been an amazing journey, and it was something I needed to do for myself. I got myself retired from fighting, and then I kind of like let myself go a little bit, right? I ate whatever I wanted. I stopped exercising the way I used to, and I put on that 70 extra pounds. Well, technically 90 from the time that I was fighting. I was fighting at 170 back in 2019. And I just, you know, I just realized I needed to come back to myself. And when I got asked to coach, I said, I can't be coaching these guys and not be physically fit enough. You know, if I'm going to make them do a workout, I got to be able to burn them through the workout, and I got to be able to do it myself and not be tired. So that was like part of the journey of coming back and getting asked to coach. Was a huge step for me to be like, well, I'm the kind of guy that says, if I'm going to tell you to do it, I got to be able to do it. Like, I'll never ask you to do something I've never done myself. So that was a big part of my journey of getting myself back into shape. And as we all know, it's diet, right? Just if you're eating properly and you exercise, you can maintain a healthy lifestyle. So that was a big journey for me. And I was able to get down to about 215. I boxed back in April at 215, and I was happy, healthy. I was moving good. And then they convinced me to go to, they wanted me at 170 for this fight. And they convinced me to take it at 185. And I said, well, let's do it. So we started that journey, that 30-pound weight cut 8 weeks ago. And, you know, it was a nice, smooth transaction though. Like I thought it was gonna be a lot harder than it was for myself, but really, I mean, I'm so used to cleaning up my diet, I guess, when I need to, that it wasn't too bad. I actually ended up only really cutting 5 pounds of water weight for this fight.
Well, that takes us to yesterday when you had your debut to the cage. You, right on this show, which was spectacular having you on the show, you said, I quoted it as the title of the YouTube video we put out, which was that you wanted to show off your striking. Indeed, you did. You ended up getting it finished by strikes, but very late in the third round, and this was a 3-minute round. So let's, if you can, let's walk us through one round at a time and kind of how things went, what it felt like, and sort of what was working, and if there was any difficulties, because I know you can do things on the ground, but you wanted to really make this a striking fight.
Yeah. So, I mean, I lost the first round outright. Like, I felt great going in there. I felt good. We were expecting a guy to want to wrestle. He came from 10th Planet, and he's a wrestling coach. And we just expected him to want to wrestle, but he came out slinging his leather, and his game plan, it looked like at the beginning of the fight, was my game plan. Like, I wanted to try to chew up his front leg, and he started to immediately chew up my front leg with kicks. The first teep that I threw in the whole fight, the first thing I threw was a teep kick to the midsection. He caught it, flipped me over. I rolled onto my back, trying to get out. He immediately pounced on me with a head arm. We've been fighting that head arm in practice. I've been training with Tommy Costa and his guys up at High Ground on Wednesdays, and we've been doing nothing but working on getting 2-on-1, getting out of that head arm when somebody's north-south on you, and working on dog fighting. And I ended up using both of those practices during this fight to get out. So like, he got me head arm. I ended up fighting him out. I bumped my butt against the cage, helped use the cage to stop him from sinking his anaconda any deeper. I was able to take the two-on-one off, and then we cage fought for a little bit. We ended up breaking loose from the cage, and he was chewing me up there on my feet a little bit in that first round. Started to get me frustrated. So when we went back to the corner, you know, my cornerman reminded me to start feinting a little bit more, right? Get those feints, get those head movements going. So when we came out in the second round, it went a lot smoother. It went more my way, and I ended up catching him with a hard two right on the chin, on the button, and dropped him.
Oh wow!
So I took my opportunity there to try to jump on him, but I was too eager. You know, like I didn't position first, so I immediately tried to jump on him. Missed the first couple strikes. He was able to get back to his knees. He fought off a short choke. I tried to get him in a short headlock choke, and he ended up slipping out of that. And then we got back to our feet and moved around a little bit more. But I got really comfortable once I realized that he wasn't going to be able to take me down the way he thought he was going to. So, you know, and then by the third round, we were both gassed. Our wind was sucked, and then it just came hard, right? The corner guys looked at me. He said, "Look in my eyes, man. Look, I'm telling you right now, you stand to your feet, get off the stool before this bell rings. You look him down, you get in his face, and you pressure him." So that's what we ended up doing in the third round. And I was lucky enough that I dropped him 2 more times in the third round. We started to realize that the cornerman guys also, they let me know, like, let's rip to the gut. This guy doesn't have the stomach. They noticed it after the first round, and I started hitting more shots to the body. And so, I mean, that was ended up what won it for us. You know, I ended up dropping him in the with a couple knees in the third round, and then finally we had a hard scramble to get back to our feet after a little wrestle around. And I tried a couple different chokes. I was in bad positions for him, so I ended up letting him out of them. But he popped up, and I just ripped a gut shot with a cross that dropped him. And then when I jumped on him, he turned away from me, and Big Dan was there to stop the fight. You know?
And yes, that's Big Dan Mergliata, who's a famous ref, particularly we see him a lot in UFC fights. So I'm sure that was especially fun for you to have such a high quality ref in there with you. And that's something that people don't always realize is the really good MMA refs that ref UFC championship, 25-minute fights, also ref amateur fights. That's how they stay sharp. That's how they practice. That's how they get better. And so sometimes that can surprise people, because a referee can be sort of reffing amateur fights one night and reffing a UFC main event with Anderson Silva or another great John Jones or somebody else in it the next night. So it's kind of cool for that. What was it like emotionally, even though you were only 10 seconds to go in the fight? What was it like emotionally to actually get a finish and not have to, in the back of your mind, worry about decisions? Because we've seen terrible decisions come out. You lost the first round, so it's just a matter of how they would see round 2 and 3. Clearly, you were winning, but I'm just saying, what was it like for the relief of knowing that you didn't have to go to decision, even though it was just a few seconds away from that?
Oh, it's a huge relief, especially when I already ran my mouth off, right, with you saying that I wanted to establish the finish, and then I only had 10 seconds left to do it. So I mean, it's great, right? It's that's the amazing feeling. The wins always feel good, but it's especially great when you know that you took it in your own hands and you made sure that you sealed the victory. So I mean, it was, yeah, it was fantastic, right? I wanted to get it so much earlier in the fight, obviously, but I'll take it whenever I can get it, you know. And by him curling up and turning away, Dan even told me, he's like, if he would have turned into you, we probably the fight probably would have kept going, you know. But as soon as the guy turns away after catching a big shot and getting dropped like that, they immediately are going to step in and stop the fight, especially for amateurs, right? Because we're not getting paid. So these guys, you know, there's nothing on the line as far as paychecks go when it comes to amateur fighting. So these refs are usually good with us, and they step in pretty quick to make sure that everybody's healthy and kids keep fighting.
And it's thrilling as a coach and a fighter for you to kind of point that out. And I will say that for fans that go to MMA fights and they're only used to the way stoppages are done at Bellator or One or UFC, sort of those high level pros, and then they go to a fight like I do a lot with 247 Fighting Championship,
Right.
which is a great promotion.
Yeah,
In Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's incredible. But a lot of times an 0-0 debut amateur versus an 0-0 debut amateur has the crowd going nuts, right? Because grandmas, everybody that they've ever met is there, and
yeah,
it's exciting, right? And one of the things, oftentimes, if there's a stoppage, and sometimes 0-0 amateurs, 30 seconds in, a minute in, things can be going very badly for one of the fighters because it's the first fight and all that. And sometimes fans don't always understand that, yes, the ref actually referees differently depending on the level. An 0-0 debut versus 0-0 debut, the ref is going to be very conservative and stop the fight anytime a fighter looks confused, hurt, turns away, injured, and really just sort of looks like they don't want to be there because the ref wants to keep them safe so that they can learn and get better. And I've had that go either way as a coach. I've had fighters win in 17 seconds in a debut. I've also had them lose quickly because things can go badly quickly when you're a debut. But also, like you pointed out, you're advanced amateur. You're a higher level amateur. And yet still, even at that level, the referee is going to take into account that you're amateur. You're not pro. I've talked to referees privately. They kind of have the very young amateur mindset where they're going to look at those guys very closely. Advanced amateurs get a little bit more leeway, room. And then the first maybe 5 fights as a pro. And of course, my mind is, hey, they're pros. But a good ref knows, the first 3 to 5 fights as a pro, they're still figuring out sort of the pro level. And then probably past there, it starts to get kind of like, we're going to give you as much as you can handle. But it was great from you kind of explaining that so that people understand that referees have to kind of give people different leash. And of course, that's why Dominic Cruz was so upset at Keith Peterson. I think he kind of made some stuff up. I've met Keith. Keith seems like a great referee, and it's had some great refereeing. But Dom's point might have been somewhat justified that he's a former champ. He should have been given as much leeway as possible. But getting back to your fight, you got to finish. You showed off your striking. You had your guys come up with you. Obviously, it was a long drive. What is it like for you to just have this turnaround in the last 6-7 months, losing the weight, getting back in shape, wanting to see if you can still compete? What was that like now going forward?
Oh man, I'm ready to go back. Right, let this eye heal up a little bit. Let the little knock behind my head here, behind my ear, where he caught me good, heal up a little bit in my leg, and I'm ready to get back in there. It's the journey's been good, and I see all the things that I need to work on now, even more after the fight. Because even with the win in your head, you're thinking of the positions that he had on me where he didn't capitalize, where maybe somebody with a higher skill level might have capitalized. And I'm like, okay, I need to work on this. I need to work out of that because I was actually in deep waters at this point, even though he didn't capitalize on it. With somebody like Nick Brown, he would have had that anaconda, and I would have been trying to fight the 2-on-1, and he would have rolled me, and we would have been on the ground again instead of me still against the cage, being able to fight it off. So now moving forward, I'm going to be working on those little things, and I think I'm going to try to get back in there. I got a call from a buddy, Eric Watkins. He does boxing promotion out of Morgantown, Real Fights promotion. is what it's called. And he asked me if I wanted to come down and box November 5th. So I think I'm going to get with him and maybe get a boxing match going. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. I'd love to have you back on and talk just about that if you have a boxing fight, because even though this is an MMA show, we like to bring fighters on that are, in the mixed martial arts world. And obviously Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, the BJJ tournaments all relate to MMA. You mentioned Nick Brown. Nick Brown has a really high level fight coming up for Bellator soon. Nick Brown is the main fighter and coach of All American, which you have been involved with for decades, as you pointed out last time. And you're pointing out some cage awareness that if a fighter is working on an anaconda choke or Darce choke, which is the same choke, just opposite entry points. For people that don't know, the gator roll or the roll is very important offensively for them to kind of take away the defense of you, as you pointed out. And somebody like Nick Brown is going to be much more aware, given his higher level skill, and the fact that it's interesting because he's known and he is incredible at jiu-jitsu, but he's been knocking guys out. And I think that goes either way. We've talked about that. If you're really known for stand-up, it almost means that you're going to end up maybe spending more time on the ground because somebody thinks that they want to take you there. And I think that's what happens with Nick Brown. Nick Brown is so feared on the ground, and he should be. He is insanely good. I don't have to tell you that. You've tapped 10,000 times to him, so you're aware. You said last time that Nick now takes pity on you and just gets it close and says, that's okay, let's reset. And you're like, okay, we're gonna reset, But I think it's giving Nick, and of course he's increasing his game, evolving his game, but it's giving him the ability to be on the feet, even though that might not be his kind of what he's known for. He's been knocking people out because they don't want to go to the ground with him. So really cool. Your high level training partners obviously pay off. And it's incredible to see you coming back and getting this big win. So congrats to you and your teams, because I know you're train and work at different places. Let me know. I'd love to have you back on before the November boxing. Congrats. Enjoy this win. Great stoppage, great win for Chef John. For those of you that don't know, get a shirt from Chef John. I know you were repping those shirts to raise money for a lady who needs a liver transplant. So you're caring and you're on the right path as far as your fighting goes. So congrats again.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Hit me up on Facebook, guys. John Leancu, Leancu. Chef John Nation. We're getting the shirts going. All the money's being donated out to a good cause with Patty Madden. She's getting a liver transplant here in October. So if you want one, just hit me up. And thank you so much for having me back on. I mean, honestly, it's a blast to be here. And it's a lot of fun talking to you. You're so knowledgeable about the sport. You know what's going on around, and just being able, you make it really easy to talk to you and to do an interview. So yeah, thank you.
That's ditto to you. I know you're still getting used to this interview thing, but you're great. I think because you have so much experience, you've been a coach, you kind of know how to explain things, which is wonderful. And of course, that's something you can learn and get better over time. Congratulations again. You've been listening to MMA Fancast with Luke Mason. I've been interviewing Chef John coming off his big win. Congrats to you. Take care.
See it.